All right. So I'm Matt. I am Armor Guard. I'm one of the three. I'm the managing partner and one of the three owners of the company. Appreciate everybody coming out here today to meet with us with the Smalley folks. Our product has been on the market now for 12 years. You may say, how come I don't know about it? You may have heard about it, who knows? But we did a relaunch about 2.5 years ago when I stepped into the company, and we've grown gangbusters since. Long story short, previously the product was manufactured in small batches only, and my business partner would only mix it and apply it. He wouldn't sell it to anybody. So his gig was, hey, I'm gonna mix it, I'm gonna put it on for you, right? I stepped in and said, we're gonna become a product company. We're gonna grow within 3 years to go through distribution. We did that in 1.5 years. So we're proud to have the Smalley guys here, actually throughout the entire Southwest as our distributors. So if you guys have projects all the way, as far north as Reno, as far, I guess as far west or far east is Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah, Albuquerque.
In Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So pretty good chunk of real estate, and all the way, of course, over to La La Land. So what can Armor Guard be used to protect? Basically any non-porous or semi-porous surface that needs to be protected. The one caveat on that is my material is an acrylic emulsion. That's what gives it its strength. It's also what gives it its peelability. Think Elmer's glue. We all have kids or grandkids, right? Or we played with glue as a kid. My material's not that much different from Elmer's glue, only I harden, remain elastic, and peel. We don't get hard and brittle. Now, one case in point, you don't want to use me on anything that's got an old school 100% acrylic finish. We actually have an example of this over here. A sample window was sprayed, just a piece of interior, I call it Rayco storefront. It's an acrylic paint. Nobody knew any better. Nobody tested it. Should have been tested first, so the phone call could have been made. So it's not peeling away very easily from that. But as you can see here, on any standard finish, that's it. I mean, this little sample in my hand here has been coated for, I don't know, at least 8 months, riding around. All right, we guarantee our peelability for 3 years after application. We'll pass that around. We'll pass these around. You can take a look at them.
What's the UV exposure, Matt?
Well, we guarantee peelability for 3 years, including exterior, South Florida, equatorial, oceanfront UV exposure. I always say we're the only company stupid enough to do that. We actually know our product will last 7 years, but we're not going to tell you to leave it on for 7 years. I'm going to tell you to leave it on for 3 years. But the key to being able to do that is the thickness of the material. The only thing you can do wrong with our product is put it on too thin or put it on a non-approved substrate. So let's say that you had a hardwood floor you wanted to protect, right, or a pre-finished wood mullion. That can be done, but you need to test it first and test for compatibility. And that's easy to do, like this window frame we'll look at over here a little bit later when we go to peel the glass. You can tell it's only been sprayed up there a couple days. It's not completely stuck to it like glue, but it has a very strong chemical bond there. It pulls away in basically silver dollar size pieces. That's not what you want. Our material on a non-acrylic surface peels off in big sheets. Literally, if you spray it right, you can have a 5 foot by 10 foot window wall section. Grab the corner, pull it off the glass, the gasket, the frame, and one big pull just like that. 2 seconds going off. Ball it up, throw it in the trash. So that's pretty much the ins and outs of Armor Guard. The other thing that I wanted to point out to you is we this day and age, we're proud to say we're 100% manufactured in the United States. All of our raw materials that go into our emulsion are sourced here in the United States, nothing from overseas. All of our manufacturing is done in our New Bern, North Carolina plant. We have a small town USA manufacturing facility. We actually hire veterans and disabled veterans every chance we get to work in our facility. We work closely with the Marine bases close by. I'm an Army veteran myself, but there's no Army bases there, so we got to deal with the Marines, but it's all good in the Navy. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you ask it again a question, 3 years. We will extend that. For instance, we got a project in LA that's getting ready to kick off with Smalley, and they're asking for 4 years peelability on a big web core project, Century City Towers. We'll give that to them because we took their material, we ran it through accelerated age testing, we tested that compatibility, we made sure there's nothing there that's going to cause a problem. So we're all good. Again, water-based. What does water-based mean? It means it's 100% water soluble in its liquid state. So right now, if we had to, we could take that bucket and wash it down the drain. I don't recommend it because you wasted money, but you could. Now, once it's cured to a solid, it is 100% waterproof and solvent resistant. There's not a solvent you guys have in this building, I know you have some, that will eat through our material in either a standard vertical or horizontal plane. It's not going to happen. So your brick washes, your brick and acid washes to go over cementitious finishes, your runoffs from fire safing, from smoke seal, all those things that are toxic and can damage a paint finish and etched glass, they do not eat through our material. We all know from experience that poured concrete leaches for 3 years after it's been poured. So you've got that efflorescence coming out of the concrete. What does that do? It etches the glass. It gets caught in the tiny little particles of glass and catches. The first 6 months is the worst, but it does leach for 3 years. So with our material over the glass and the framing, inside, outside, wherever you want to protect, you're protecting that from happening. Weld slag, you're actually going to protect from that as long as it's a 2 to 3 foot surface away that you're welding to, and the slag has 2 feet to drop. Basically, very unscientific test, but we just put a piece of glass down, covered with the standard film thickness armor guard, welded 2.5 feet above it, dropped slag all over the top of it, peeled it back, no damage to the glass. Now, to do a more scientific test, of course you could with temperature, but what we standard do to try to simulate that is slag, once it's dropped 2 to 3 feet, is no hotter than 1200 degrees Celsius. 1200 degrees Celsius, come on guys, it's freaking flaming hot, all right? That's a torch, that's a butane torch. But what we do, and some of you may have seen in our videos, is we'll actually take a 1200 degrees Celsius butane torch, we'll spark it, we'll hold it a 1/2 inch from our material, and it will not ignite. We're a non-flame propagating material. You can't say fireproof, right? Because that's a misnomer. Non-flame propagating, self-extinguishing material. So you have waterproof, solvent resistance, abrasion resistance, grind spark, weld slag, none of that's going to eat through our material. It's going to keep you protected. We teach to spray the perimeter of the frame and then come in and do the infill. We're going to do that on this window even though it's small. It's going to put a little more material on here than should be here just because it's a smaller window and because of the tip size that we have. But the reason we do that is because glass and glazing materials are not 2-dimensional, they're 3-dimensional. You could have what? You could have a 3-inch deep mullion. You could have a 6.5 inch. You could have a 5 1/4. You could have a 12-inch deep mullion. You could have, depending on what that system is. So we teach to spray the perimeter first, okay? And then you come back and you infill. So if this was a 6-inch deep mullion, you're starting in the corner, you're coming over, and you're rocking back up on that mullion. Why? Because you've got a gasket right here. It's going to be very easy to put light spray on that gasket, which is what you don't want to do. You want it to have the right thickness on it as well, so everything peels off in one sheet. So that's why you're rocking back over the gasket. And then you're going to overlap your coverage by 50% every time you cross. Pretty easy, right? Anyway, just use standard common sense with the safety. See how that puts down a nice clean coat in one pass? You see the same cream colors you see in the bucket. That's what you want to see. Done. Step back and I'm going to look and I'm going to say, do I see any areas that might be light, right? I don't see any areas that are light here, but just to simulate it.
Inside edge?
Yeah. To simulate it, I'm going to walk to the other side. And the reason I do that, and you picked up on this in the first demo we did together, a right-handed person, I'm right-handed, you're always going to have a weak left edge. Okay? A left-handed person's always going to have a weak right edge because you're not thinking about that. If you come over here and you look, you'll see just when he pointed out, I have a light coverage there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and do this. Done. That's it. Knowing paint, I could look at this and say, hey, we need to test this surface first. Just a high gloss finish. And also I can see the texture to the side that tells me it's an acrylic. But anyway, what happened here with spray, you can see the mill thickness is right. I mean, the mill thickness is right. But what you have is you have a very strong bond to the metal below. You can see we're peeling off, right? But it's not peeling off like it's supposed to. Now, this is a specific case where we should have done compatibility testing prior, right? I mean, you can see it's coming off. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's coming off. It's not coming off like it's supposed to. This would be a finish that if we had done a compatibility testing, in 5 days, we would have gone to peel, and we would have seen exactly what we're seeing here now, and we would say we do not recommend the use of our product on this finish. Showing signs of a high acrylic. Chances are you look at the data sheet for this paint, it's 100% acrylic, right? But what we can do here is you sprayed the glass too. Looks like you sprayed over a vinyl logo as well. Get started here. That's how Armor Guard peels, guys. Okay? And this is sprayed to the same thickness as what we just did outside. And that's literally, had this been a compatible paint, we could have grabbed it and this whole thing would have pulled off. Just like we just did that.